Hi guys, it's Fiverr, and welcome back to another episode of Sugar Candy Miniatures. I have been playing through Borderlands, the whole franchise basically, for the first time on the recommendation of my two friends Mark and Adam, who've also been helping me with the game because sometimes I get stuck or don't want to be mired down in 10,000 side quests. But the first game is set in like a really kind of typical post-apocalyptic looking wasteland sort of thing, like your basic stock standard Mad Max Fury Road Orange Desert. But then you get to this game, you get to the pre-sequel, and everything is lit up all kinds of crazy colors, and you get to go to the moon. And personally, for me, I get to be a tiny robot, which is always an exciting day. So when I saw the moon situation here with these colors on the menu, I just wanted to use that color palette for something. I ended up painting a Chaos Spawn that I got. I won this Chaos Spawn box for having the best painted army in my local league, which was a goal that I had been working towards since autumn. It was a goal that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to achieve, but I wanted to set out to do my very best with it. I was really astonished when I won, but not in a way where I was surprised that I was picked, just astonished that I had been able to accomplish what I wanted to do. Because really, deep down in my heart, I had looked at all the other armies there and I had compared them to my own. And I did, for once, think my work was the best of the bunch. Which, for someone with a lot of self-esteem issues the way I have, that's not a typical thing that I think. I cannot tell you what it is to accomplish a goal that I have worked at for so long, especially when a bunch of other chaotic nonsense happened in my life. So I was really excited, and my friend Kraz told me when I was trying to pick from the prizes to just pick whichever one felt the most fun, and for whatever reason the Chaos Spawn were calling to me. I'm really glad I chose them because I ended up building up both Chaos Spawn on stream, but this one in particular I put together and I named him Party Boy because he just seemed like a little weirdo who wants to party, and maybe I just wanted someone to celebrate my victory with. And a couple of people watching the stream, thank you so much for viewing, and a little Chaos Spawn were really all I needed. I didn't exactly know how I wanted to get him painted up, so when I saw these beautiful colors, when I booted up the pre-sequel for the first time, I just had to do it. And while on stream, I made a moon base for him out of green stuff, and I knocked it up in like a couple of minutes, and people thought it was really cool, so I decided I would just do a tutorial for how to do that, because it seems kind of useful. I also sent out Party Boy's twin, have a friend who recently got into miniature painting, and despite his insistence that I should in no way, shape, or form send him plastic because he had plenty from one board game that he was painting up, I absolutely had to send him plastic because that's just what you do when you have a pile of minis that you're probably not going to get around to painting, and someone is like, hey, I've started this hobby thing and I don't even know if I like it, but you know. So I sent him a big box of stuff, and something told me that it would be really cool if Party Boy and Spider Fang were just on different parts of the globe. So yeah, Party Boy's brother is out there. So this base is big. I thought it would be good to demonstrate on, but also I kind of wanted to make a diorama for this robot that I picked up at Adepticon, and I'm not going to show any of the painting process for the robot or anything like that, because really this is a basing tutorial. So everything else is just extra because, you know, I'm me. So the first thing you do is you basically just cover the entire base with green stuff. Just spread it all out. It can be thick in some places, thin in others. You're just looking to cover the entire surface of the base. This took me a couple tries of mixing up green stuff because I didn't quite eyeball it correctly. But once you've got the entire base covered, what I like to do is just find something that has a rock texture. I had a spare base lying around that had a rock texture in it already. It helps to get it slightly moist, so I think I just dipped it, or I probably just dipped it in paint water. I could have, gotten fresh water and painted on it with a brush if I was not a gremlin person, but I probably 100% just use paint water for that. Just use paint water for that. Then I just kind of roll it, dab it gently, try to coat the entire surface and switch up how you're sort of pressing it so everywhere gets like a basic texture and you don't have to work that hard or carve anything into it. Then the last step to get the craters is literally just take the end of a paintbrush or a pencil or anything that you have lying around that's kind of long and pokey. It'll do the trick. And you just sort of swirl it around and make a little crater in the green stuff. This will work better in the thicker parts, but you can do it on thin as well. Even if you expose it down to like the black base that's just under there, it's still going to look good. These are going to be the craters, and in the loading screen there's this really cool like orangey pink lighting that comes up from them, so I wanted to have the craters there so I could just kind of add that glow. That's how you get the texture. You can see it in the grayscale. I've also decided to use these really cool, they're supposed to be for Gaslands. They're billboards basically, and like the whole Borderlands game, all of the companies that basically own everything are like really important. They make all the guns and stuff, and some of the villains work for them. So you can choose to play as a robot character that's manufactured by one of these corporations. And there's one quest line in Borderlands that has a lot to do with like AI and the autonomy of artificial intelligence and where a robot or a synthetic being's place in all that kind of is. And I don't know that they necessarily meant for it to hit me as hard as it did, especially because there are films out there, like, there's films like Ex Machina, which break that down over a much longer period of time, but this quest in Borderlands takes, I don't know, for someone who's slow at games like me, playing with two friends, that quest took, it could not have been more than 20 minutes to complete this quest. And it's the one with Felicity. If you've ever played the game, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But in the end, you have to just, it's not even really a decision, it's more of just an inevitability. But the question of whether AI consciousness has any agency is brought up, and that stuck with me, like, in my heart and soul in a way that I cannot dislodge, which is not something I expected from a Borderlands game. I never played one before I started playing like a couple months ago, and I kind of was just under the impression that they were a bunch of like crude jokes and wasteland stuff and funny names for guns and kind of weird stylization, which is fine. But I have not stopped thinking about that quest and those choices. So I think when making this diorama, I couldn't help but put this little robot beneath this really cool billboard kit. Craft Studios made it originally for Gaslands, but I wanted a tall billboard, so it usually has stubby legs, and I just used some shish kebab skewers that I had lying around. But yeah, I put together a billboard. I'm not going to show you how I did the like advertisement part of the billboard because I assume most people would just like print it out. I opted to hand draw it and graffiti it with tags that are like me and my buddies like gamer tags and names and stuff because I just thought that would be kind of fun. Borderlands seems like a place that you can have a lot of that. I also put bullet holes on it, which I thought just looked really cool. I over-weathered slightly, like you can't see the original advertisement for Pandora very well at all, but it's not the point. Anyway, so it became a little bit of a diorama about this little robot in being overshadowed by a corporation and whether they have any real choice in that or not. A little bit more serious, I guess, than most of my nonsense here is, but that's fine. It was a moment. I had emotional connections to a video game. I don't think that's a bad thing. Enough of that, though. Back to painting. So what you're going to do, the painting process for this is super simple. You're just going to slap on a light gray all over everything. Get the whole base gray. Just a nice, even tone. Once you've got that down, I use Magos purple contrast paint, but any purple wash or purple ink wash, purple oil wash, whatever purple you have is gonna work for you. There's a lot of purple and blue tones in the opening screen, so I just kind of use those, slosh it all over, get it all over everything. And the key here is, while that wash is still wet, is when you want to add in like a peachy orange kind of color. I used an army painter paint, but you can use whatever is basically like a salmon pink to sort of tangerine, light tangerine-ish orange. What I just picked one that kind of reminded me of the glow from the loading screen. And while the purple has like maybe 50% dried, go ahead and start adding the orange in. It's going to swirl with the purple just a little bit, but it's going to look like so cool and kind of otherworldly and really interesting. I guess you could use the same technique and paint it different colors and get different effects, but for the moon anyway, that's what I did. And then the last step in the painting process is just a light blue dry brush all over everything. Try not to get it in any of the craters. That's it. That's the last step of the painting process. You could stop here. This is where I stopped for Party Boy's base, but if you want to be extra, I happen to have some like teal flowers and some teal grasses lying around, so I stuck a couple of those on the base, glued the robot on there. I'd previously put like the advertisement in the billboard, and I painted the billboard pink just because I thought it would be kind of interesting. And that is it. It's super easy, super simple, and looks really cool. I'm really happy with how this turned out, and apparently Lobster is too, because he hopped up while I was getting some final shots to remind me to give a shout out to my lovely supporters on Patreon. If you want to like, comment, subscribe, and consider supporting, that would be really cool. And a special thank you to my top tier patron, Annie Green Gables. I really appreciate your support. If you'd like to join them, you can go to patreon.com/sugarcandyminiatures. Link will also be in the description. That's all for this time, guys, and I will see you in the next one.